Welcome back to the channel. So the Cowboys snap a two-game skid in prime time against the Saints. The defense poured it on, with turnovers to make Taysom Hill look like Tim Tebow. Offensively, there's things to work through. First off, is playing Zeke at less than full strength doing more harm than good? Is Dak in a deep slump? Is the offensive line losing its touch? And lastly, what's up with Kellen Moore in the play calling? It's a lot to unpack. And despite the win, I have more questions than answers. As somebody said, the game was uncomfortably comfortable, which if you think about it, that's where the Cowboys are right now in the NFC East. They're 8-4 and 2 games up with 5 to go. Have not locked anything down yet. Enter the Washington football team. Winners of 4 straight with an improving defense and a QB that will not stay down. As a native of the DC area, I can tell you, I sense a whole lot. Washington fans saying we want Dallas, then when the game's over, they just want to go home and be quiet. And if you can't tell by now, I've never had any confidence in the Washington football team. And despite the offensive struggles, I still feel very confident in Dallas going to this game. But let me not get ahead of myself and talk it through step by step. And to do that, I want to call a special guest to the show. You may know from Twitter and his hype videos, but to me, he's the unofficial mascot of Cowboys Nation. Joining me tonight is none other than Mr. Mike Tagg himself. Mike, what's going on?
Hey, how's it going, man? I appreciate you having me on tonight.
Hey, man, no problem at all. No problem at all. Happy to have you. So what's up?
Oh, not just, I was reading on one of the tweets. It said this has been the longest week, and it has. Man, it seems like I wish Sunday was tomorrow. I want to get this thing going. And, we had all those games in a row, and then we had this lull. I think that's probably maybe playing a part in it, but I'm ready to get to Sunday, man.
Anything extra? 'Cause it's the Washington team for you?
It always, it always is about Washington. They've been chanting our name. We want Dallas for the last couple of weeks, so that spiced it up. And it's always funny. These teams, they seem to care more about us than we do about them. But
Agreed.
I think we're going to have something for them come Sunday.
So, Mike, you've been a Cowboys fan going back since what, 75, 80?
Well, I was born in 75, so as long as I can remember.
Okay.
But, I don't know exactly when I started getting into football as a kid, but obviously Tony Dorsett played a big part in it. And growing up in South Florida, I was surrounded by Dolphin fans. And so that's been what's cool with Twitter and social media. It's kind of had me gather around other Cowboys fans because growing up, I didn't really have many till they started winning and the bandwagon got big. So it's
it's big,
cool.
all right. It's huge now. So, man, tell me, because you've been around the rivalry longer than I have. Just kind of tell me this, because I don't understand quite why. Why is it that the Washington fans never seem to let go of Dallas? Like, why is that? Despite us beating them down for the last 30 years, why are Washington fans so stuck or clinging to Cowboys fans?
It was such an intense rivalry before my time. If you look back, especially in the 70s, it was a hatred. And it was back in, and in the 80s, I remember Danny White getting into a fight in the middle of the game with the defensive line of Washington. I mean, it just always was a hatred. Maybe it's when they were the Redskins, Cowboys, and the Indians kind of thing. And we both were good. If you look at the Giants and you look at the Eagles, they've had them lulls. But for the most part, until, recent history, in the 70s and 80s, and into most of the, half of the 90s, the Washington team was good. And it was a big rivalry, and it's always was pretty intense. I know people jump to the Eagles as the biggest rivalry. It is now, but all time it's always, Washington and Dallas.
I mean, for me, just kind of being a kid in the area, they've never been good in my lifetime. I'm in that bracket where I'm old enough to know that Dallas is, they won 2 championships in my time, but I'm young enough to know I've never seen them ever be good. So I don't really care. Like, I'm like, you guys are nobody to me. And it's funny because people might notice my dad's a big Washington fan. He actually was a builder at the stadium back in the day. So, yeah, I mean, we're cool. We're not.
He broke his heart, man.
Hey.
I like it, though.
Yeah, man. And it's always been, it's cordial until we start playing each other. So now he's texting me and talking his little side piece, but it's all good. So I hope he's watching too. So we're going to talk a little bit of noise tonight. Yeah. Before we get to it, man, if you can, give me your favorite win of Cowboys over the Washington team. What's your favorite?
It's funny. There's so many games, but the one that sticks out, I was thinking about it today. The one, if you say Washington, It was, I believe it was 90. It was Emmitt Smith's rookie year, Thanksgiving. And it was kind of the breakout game for Emmitt Smith. And it really was for the Cowboys because you had the triplets were kind of getting going. But that year, Washington was the team. And I believe they won the Super Bowl that year. And we beat them on Thanksgiving. Emmitt Smith ran for like 130, 140 yards. And that was kind of the turning point of that era for the Cowboys and kind of got them on their run. So that's probably the most memorable. On a good side, on the bad side, just real quick, was I was there when they inducted the triplets into the Ring of Honor in Texas Stadium. And we played them on Monday night, and it was a terrible game. We weren't that good. We were beating them 13-0, and with about 2 or 3 minutes, something like that, to go at the end of the game, Santana Moss gets 2 touchdowns. They beat us 14-13. Social media and all that wasn't around then. So I get home. I worked with my brother. The next day, he was telling me, man, I can't believe you guys pulled that one out. It was a sorry game and this and that. And I was like, dude, we lost. You didn't see it? And because he had fell asleep. But that's probably the heartbreaking one. But it was cool to see the triplets get inducted. So
That's cool. So this is 05, right? 2005?
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
Okay. I mean, like for me, the worst one, I think, and that's a good one too. I think it's probably '05, the year they played here in DC, and I think they had a blocked field goal. Taylor picks it up. They pull his face mask for a 15-yard penalty. They kick the field goal, win the game.
Yeah.
Yeah, that one to me, it stands out. That one sucks. And of course, favorite memory is '99, being down 35-14, came back in overtime to Rocket Ismail.
Oh, Troy Aikman, I think Rocket Ismail did he hit?
Yep.
Yeah. No, that was good.
So much smack next day at school. Oh my gosh. So Mike, what we typically do here is I'll go from the Cowboys defense against the opposing offense, and we'll flip sides.
Okay.
If that's cool with you.
Yeah.
Of course. And so let's start off because I think we got big news this week where we have looks like Randy Gregory's coming back. So tell me about Randy and what he means to his defense coming back.
Well, he was on obviously a Pro Bowl season before he got injured. He's wrecking havoc, and getting him now, and obviously Tank coming back. I mean, that just solidifies the defensive end, and I think it allows us to, Micah Parsons to do a lot of other things. I mean, obviously we want him rushing the passer because that's what he's done best. But maybe he's blitzing up the middle at middle linebacker. He's going side to side. The running back has given us trouble. Especially last year. So I think it kind of frees Mike up to be a roamer, rush the passer, but also his side-to-side speed is unmatched for us.
Yeah, I like it a lot, man. I like what you're saying because I think, like you said, that multiplicity is big that we need. The one that I looked at this offensive line for Washington is that they run block really well, but they run block on toss plays, so going outside, which, hey, help me out. Comes to Micah Parsons, and I was looking at them. They pull the guard a lot. So we clown on Eric Flowers. We clown on Eric Flowers for years with the Giants. He's actually not that bad of a guard. Quiet as kept, he's playing pretty good at left guard right now. So as much as they pull their guards left and right, I think Micah has to shoot those gaps, like you said, up the middle, get to the running back, get him down on the ground. How would you play this game on passing downs? Because that's the one thing I've been kind of unsettled with what we've been doing on passing downs. How do you play this with your D-line on passing downs? Is Micah a rusher? Is he playing in coverage? How do you kind of work that through?
Well, I think it all depends. If you got Tank and you got Gregory there and they're applying the pressure, then you've got the ability to move Micah around. I mean, his coverage skills, I know coming out of the draft, he isn't highly touted in that. His best thing is going after the quarterback. He's a mobile quarterback, so he can present problems. So I think adding pressure, I'd like to see him blitzing. I'd like to see him going after the quarterback and just applying the pressure. I think, the thing with our secondary, we're getting those turnovers and we're getting better. But if we don't get pressure, we kind of get exposed. I mean, we've seen it in some games, especially that, the Raiders game and a couple other ones where, they've kind of hurt our secondary. So we've got to get pressure. And to me is you make them as one-dimensional as possible. Obviously we get the offense, but if we just, don't let them get any life, so.
The one thing that I was kicking around before we got on was, what is my front on 3rd and 7 and 3rd and 8? And I like what you said, though, about freeing up Micah. I was thinking of doing like a spy kind of, or you have Micah kind of half spy, half rush. So I know you watch like Heinicke play. Does he more like rush out the pocket or flush the pocket from the right side or left side? Does he have a preference that you've seen?
I haven't seen. I mean, I'll be honest. I haven't seen a lot of their games. I haven't.
Okay.
I've been going to some of the I've been going to more Cowboy games than I have in the past. So the
All
good
right.
thing is I get to see him play live. The
All
bad
right. All
part is I
right.
kind of miss all the other games. So except in highlights, I know he's not fast, but he's elusive. He's a scrambler. He's made things happen. I watched the Tampa. I watched what he did against Tampa, and
Mhm.
obviously they beat them. So he can be a problem, but he's not. I mean, he's no Lamar Jackson. I mean, we don't have to worry about
Okay.
that. So I think our linebackers definitely can get him. And the other thing is Gallimore. Is he going to be back? Have you seen
That's
that?
the word. That's the word. So he
Okay.
came back to practice today. So looking
Yeah.
at those two guys coming back.
So I've
Gallimore
seen
and Randall.
where maybe Tank, you put him at a D tackle, and you got Micah, Tank, Gallimore, and Gregory on the line on passing downs.
I like it a lot, man. I at least, like I said, if he's more a right hand dominant scrambler to where he's rushing to your rush lane to your right or
Yeah.
our left on defense,
Yeah.
then it's like, okay, if you want this option to run right, I'm gonna send Micah after you, and I'm closing the gap. I don't, and we're gonna talk a lot about Heineke in a second, but I don't think he's that kind of guy anyway. So I like what you're saying. Just hey, we want to go to that kind of a package. We have Lawrence playing tackle. I'm down for it, man.
Yeah.
And then flipping the script, I looked at their running backs. So from my perspective, it looks like McKissick may not play, which I think is a great plus for us if he doesn't play. And the reason for that I say is Leighton Vander Esch.
Mhm.
I mean, what you think? Because maybe you disagree, maybe we agree on this one. Do
No,
you
I mean,
think
yeah, he's been
you know what I'm gonna say?
you know.
Okay, okay. Um, so what do we do about this? Because I saw today the news with Zach Cunningham. So do you think do we try to approach Zach Cunningham, or do you think that we're really past the point of no return with Leighton Vander Esch?
Yeah, I don't know if we bring someone in now. I mean, we got what 5, 6 games left. I don't. I'll be honest with you. I don't study film. I know a lot of the podcast they're studying, all 22, and when I see him play, he's made some plays and he's missed some plays. But I mean, you could probably say that about everyone. Is he our best linebacker? No. Are they probably going to bring him back? No. But I think he's serviceable. I think he plays hard. I don't think he's going to be the reason we lose. It may not be the
Okay.
reason we win either. But with a lot of packages, I mean, you've got Neal in there and you got Parsons in there, especially if you get, you got the D line finally back. That maybe you're going to see less of Van Der Esch anyway. I know he's a liability in the passing downs. I've seen him get beat a bunch, there as well.
Yeah.
So.
Is there anybody on the team you want to see more? Like I've seen guys ask for Francis, Bernard. People were asking for Gifford. Do you think it's to the point where you got to play what you got behind him? Is it that bad in your
For
mind?
linebacker,
Yeah.
yeah, I think you got to go with what you. I mean, Van Der Esch he's our third. He's our third best linebacker. I don't think the other guys are better than him. I think you
Okay.
got obviously Parsons, Neal, and Van Der Esch. He's experienced. Like I said, I think the thing with Cowboys fans is, everything's an extreme. When we lose, it's an extreme, and we win, it's an extreme. And I think that sometimes they hone in. They did it with Jalen Smith, and I know Jalen wasn't the best linebacker, but he wasn't the worst linebacker in the league either. But I think sometimes fans just kind of get on someone, and it's he can do no right. And I think Van Der Esch is kind of that guy on defense now. That whatever he does, they're always going to point out the negative. They're never going to show the positive that he does, and that's just the way it is.
I can see it honestly. That's true. I agree. I think he's toast.
Yeah.
And the reason why I worry about him not only with the running backs is the tight end matchups. Now, luckily for us this week, it looks like, and as a VTech fan, I really do like Logan Thomas a lot, but I think he's out for the year. It looks like Seals Jones is up in the air whether he'll play or not, so they have less options over the middle, and pretty much means it's Terry McLaurin and nobody else, unless you think they have somebody else I should think about. So if you're Dan Quinn, how do you approach Terry McLaurin to make sure he doesn't beat you? What do you do in this game?
Yeah, and you could probably answer it. I don't know if they've shadowed. Have they had Diggs shadow the number one receiver? Or is he's been playing on the side, right? That's what
I don't think we've played a guy like that yet, honestly. I don't think we played a guy that's. Tell me, because we played a1 bona fide guy to follow. I know I've seen him chasing after Mike Evans, not Mike Evans. What's the guy Diggs followed? Was Keenan Allen
Yeah.
against the Chargers. I don't think I've seen him follow a guy game in, game out, or down in, down. I haven't seen it. I don't think so.
Yeah, I mean, it's you can have the approach they used to have in the past. Sometimes they would You double up the best guy, and you put your best corner. So you put your number 2 corner and give him help, and take out their best receiver, and you leave Diggs on the island with their 2 receiver, and just let
Yeah.
him lock them down.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
you throw Diggs on him and have him handle them. But it's still going to come down to pressure. If we can, and that's the one thing that we did a little bit better against the Saints, and that caused some turnovers. We've got to get pressure. When I was a kid, I used to get so pissed when the Cowboys would draft an offensive lineman or defensive lineman.
Mhm.
And now, as you get older, you realize the game's won there. So it's won in the trenches, and we've got to dominate that line of scrimmage with the defensive line, and I think everything else kind of falls into place.
So I'm gonna go. Tell me if you're with me on this. Okay, I'm gonna go in the opposite direction. All right. So with McLaurin, I'm thinking about playing more zone. And the only reason why I say this is when I watch these guys play, it's a lot of going over the middle. McLaurin loves going over the middle, slants, digs, deep end cuts. I'm thinking if we go zone, make him find a soft spot in the zone while allowing our guys, our pressure guys, that's Tank, Randy, makes us that hold the ball a little bit longer and just kind of just lock that down. I feel a lot better because once you go, like you said, man coverages and you're trying to go one-on-one and following guys, and everyone has to account for that too. So if I follow this guy across the field, then hey, Anthony Brown, don't fall asleep back there. I'll give you help, but like it's a lot of variables that I kind of worry about. So I'm thinking in my head, like let's just go zone, make sure I keep everything in front of us, not get beat deep. Um, would you go that direction, or you think it's better to go man up the entire
I think
time?
they've been going man pretty much all year, right?
A
Would you
lot,
say?
a
Yeah.
lot, a
I mean,
lot,
I,
a
I
lot.
don't know if you're going to change. I don't know if you can change what you are. I mean, I get what you're saying, and I think there's some merit to it. And, I think there's nothing wrong with mixing it up. I just don't know if Quinn is, I think he likes man, and he believes in his guys, and for the most part, I mean, you take the I keep wanting to call them Oakland, take the Vegas Raiders game out of it with Brown. I mean, it was like a week ago we were singing his praise, and he had played really well the whole year pretty much. And it was just, man, it was a bad game. I saw it with my own
Mhm.
eyes. It was bad.
Yeah.
But I don't want to turn on him the whole year and throw him to the bench just on a bad game or say he can't do it. Because I thought the Saints, that was really probably a tough game to judge them, because they were depleted.
Would you
Hill's
say he
not a
got away with
really good.
some though? Do you think Anthony Brown got away with a couple calls against the Saints? It felt like it to me at least on one.
Yeah, I mean, I don't
Yeah.
know. I mean, you could, how they say you can call a penalty on almost any play. I mean, I will say that in the Vegas game, some people were mad about the calls. I looked back and watched him on the highlights and stuff, and it was legit. He had a bad game. I mean, we can't, as much as it hurt us, as much as we, just can't cry about it. We got to move on. And I thought he played better against the Saints. I'll give a shout out to my son because he's on it every week. He wants Kelvin Joseph. He wants to see him play more cornerback. I haven't seen
You
it.
know what though? Can you blame him though? Honestly, can you blame him? Because you talked about draft capital too, right?
Yeah.
And I've asked the question before. I've asked it to Knicks before and a lot of other guys. If you pick a guy in the second round, he's not playing, and he's only covering kicks. Do you feel like you're not getting enough out of your investment?
Yeah.
It
I'm
is. I mean,
surprised.
it's weird, right? Like,
Yeah.
and it's not like we're talking about offensive linemen, and that's its own problem with politics. But and we'll talk about that in a second. It just feels like you can easily rotate the guy in, give him some snaps, let him get confident, and find a spot for him, and they're not even trying it. I think he's playing like I saw like 5% of the snaps on defense.
Yeah. No, I mean, my son's high on him. He maybe get him he wanted a jersey. I said, slow down on the jersey. We'll get you a shirt with his number on it. So we did that first, but he loved him in college, and he was really pumped when we drafted him. But yeah, he's a young kid. Your second round, you've invested in it. I'm surprised that he hasn't, especially in some of the games where we had some trouble. Where maybe Brown was having a bad game, or Lewis, or something, or guy got hurt. It just still doesn't seem like he's getting the opportunity.
So even in a game like this, I think we're playing a quarterback who I think is limited. And we watched. I know you're at a lot of the games yourself, so you kind of don't see like the NFL from a 360s perspective. I know for myself, I'm always watching somebody play, and I see a lot of quarterback play across the league. So looking at Taylor Heineke, I should say, for Washington and what they're doing with him, do you think he's I won't say franchise guy, but do you think he's a guy they invest in for the next couple of years? I know he has a 2-year contract. Do you think he's a guy that's worth investing in for this team, or should they? And do you think over these next two games he's a problem for us?
I think he's scrappy. I think he's one of those quarterbacks that if you let him hang around, it could be he can give you some trouble. But I think if we get a lead on him, if we make him one dimensional, I think we'll expose him. I think he's that type of quarterback. I don't think he's a franchise quarterback, and I think that's the trouble with the NFL is if you don't have an elite quarterback, you got an average quarterback. Really, what do you got? I mean, and that's the trouble with the salary cap and where everything is you got to pay a quarterback. Do you pay this guy a bunch of money? But I don't, even though he's not, or you're going to try and draft, or you're going to try and get someone else in to get you going. I don't think he's an elite. He's not on Dak's level or the top 10 quarterbacks in the league. I don't see him there.
I mean, you said it, and I think that's the thing. This is where Dallas, and I hope Cowboys fans understand this about Dak Prescott. It's a very advantageous spot to be in where you have your quarterback and nobody else has one. You can talk about guys like Jalen Hurts, Daniel Jones, Taylor Heineke, and even whatever the Texans are doing. If you're in Texas, whatever those teams are doing, to have a quarterback, do you think is an elite quarterback or a starting caliber quarterback that includes guys like Kirk Cousins, if you will? All those guys are a good place to be in versus whatever those teams are doing. And I think when we talk about quarterbacks, and I know Mike, you've done quarterbacks for years. You as a college football fan, you've seen your fair share of quarterbacks coming through the draft. Um, if a quarterback's best characteristic is mobility, grit, moxie, if that's the best thing about you, your mental makeup, you're not very good.
You're a journeyman.
Yeah, yeah, you're not.
You're going to
good.
spark a team every year, like Fitzpatrick. He's made a career of it, right? He got hurt obviously this year, but he'd show some flash. He'd get a contract. He'd jump to another team. He'd show some flash. Eventually, it catches up to him. He's exposed, and then the Fitz magic and all that other stuff go away. And that's and I think that's what you're kind of get with Heineke. I think he's that kind of quarterback.
Yeah, I think he's a spark plug, but I think as you said it and you phrased it is exactly right. If you get a lead on them and they have to throw on 3rd and 12, 3rd and 10, and I don't know what the weather's going to be like. Maybe it's pretty fair weather. If it's tough on them, you got to go after him. I think that's, like you said, that's the best key. I think once we get him in our stadium in a couple weeks, I think that's when you're going to see who he really is. Because once we get in our environment, our zone, we start scoring and running the points up, I think it's going to be a blowout. We'll talk about that game in a couple weeks, hopefully, Mike.
Yeah.
But I'm going to flip the
side. I'll be there to see that one. I'll be there to see that.
You've been to how many this year? Denver?
I think this will be the 6th or 7th.
Oh, man, you're globetrotting.
And I tell people it worked out that way. It just – because of COVID, I had a credit and I had a bunch of miles and it was a lot of rebates. So this year kind of worked out to where I was able to get to some games that really hadn't cost me anything to go. So
in it firsthand, man. Hopefully it's a special year with all these visitation rights. I told you, man, you're like the unofficial mascot of the team. So you're everywhere, man. So I'm gonna flip. Well, hey, we'll see. We'll tell you what. So let's flip the sides right now. So I'm gonna go Cowboys offense, my favorite part, versus the Washington defense. So I'm looking at this group for Washington firsthand, and I know there's no Chase Young. Sweat's probably out with COVID, I think. Yeah. But inside, I like their guys inside. Ioannidis, Settle, Allen, Payne. Where are you with how our O-line is playing, particularly at guard and center over the last few weeks? And how do you feel we should approach this game in the running game? What should we do, knowing what they have inside with that front?
Yeah, well, that's a problem. I think if there's one part that's been disappointed over the last, several weeks is the offensive line. We've been getting dominated. Like I talked about with the dominating the line of scrimmage. Our offensive line has been dominated by all these defenses. And we can talk about the running game but they're getting pushed back, 2 yards. These defensive linemen are in the backfield when the running back's getting the ball a lot of times. And there's just no hope. And, we've always been a pretty solid run blocking, team for years. And I don't know if it's all the transition. They're moving, Connor Williams is out, McGovern's in. Now we don't know if this right tackle, all right, Steele's going to play a little bit. Then Lyell's playing a little bit. We didn't obviously have Tyron Smith for a little while. We need to get some continuity with that offensive line. And they need to do it soon because it hasn't looked very good. Even on pass protection, Dak's been, he's been under duress as well, more than usual.
Yeah, and I think the problem I have, we can talk about running backs in a second as well, kind of just mix it all in, is that it's the insistence with me with Zeke and McGovern and Biotis. Like these things aren't really working for me either. Like you said, it's the center and guard, they are getting beat. They're getting dominated in the running game, especially on the move, which I haven't seen before. I think normally they're pretty good as far as your inside zone runs. They're not that bad, but they're missing their guys in space. I saw a cut up, I think, today of they had McGovern, I mean, whiff terribly on and hit nobody. So I was talking to some of the guys in the Twitter space, Knicks. Shout out to Knicks if you're listening, by the way. And I asked this question about Zeke, and I said, why are they playing Zeke so much despite being hurt? And the only thing that I could think of is it's a financial political angle. Do you think that's really what it is? They're playing Zeke because it's a financial game that they want to get everything out of this contract.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I hope it's not that. I can't see that it would be that. I think what it is with them is maybe the pass protection, keeping them in. I don't know. I mean, I was hoping he didn't play against the Saints because my thought was, all right, he's hurt. I mean, anyone who knows anything knows he's hurt. I mean, you can see the one run he had, on the sideline was like an 8-yard gain. You saw he almost like was hobbling when he was running towards the
Mm-hmm.
sideline. He shouldn't be playing. And they should have. Saints was a perfect opportunity to give him that rest. He would have had a long
11
from
days. Well,
Thanksgiving till
yeah,
today. That was 12, 14, 17,
17
whatever
days.
days it was. He could have got his body rested up, and we could have beat the Saints without him, right? With Pollard, you should win that game. He's not right, and I think if you prolong it, it's going to be a problem because it's not going away. I mean, he just can't rest for 4 days. These bodies get broken down. But he fights, and I know the contract and these guys again and Cowboy where they're all, I don't talk about what people make. I don't talk about their contracts. They get what they get. If Jerry didn't want to pay him, he wouldn't pay him. If he's tired of him, they'll cut him. Nothing's guaranteed for these guys. And I've been around enough players seeing them years after they've played to see what their body has gone through and see what the damage has done to them that, running back, they're one opportunity, one contract. I don't mean to drag it on, but it's
No,
one
no, no,
contract.
please.
And that's their one shot. Like Pollard is in a weird spot because he's going to be 4 years in. He's playing for almost nothing. He's going to be in his, by his fifth year, he's going to have one shot at a contract. These running backs, they get thrown away and tossed away. And I know it's, as a fan, hey, you just want the next guy up. But I mean, Zeke's played hard. It's just he's hurt. And I think they're not doing him any good service by leaving him in there. They need to give him a week off. They need to figure it out, whether it be the Giants game, maybe, if you can't beat him without the Giants, beat the Giants without him. But he needs a break. If you want him in the playoffs, they better figure it out soon because it's not looking good with that running game.
Well, I think they put themselves in a weird space with Zeke. And I mean, the analogy that first hit my head was you're driving a car on bad rotors. Can you drive the car? Yeah, you can, but you're gonna get the worst out of your car doing that. So why do it? And like I said, Mike, you're a Cowboys fan. You remember this with Jones and Barber. And Barber got paid, Barber played, Barber still had the same workload, and the usage was about the same. And they ran him into the dirt, and then by the time they came around, he was finished.
Yeah.
I'm seeing it again, and it's like, okay, how do I justify this contract if the guy cannot play and he looks like he's hobbled? And then the worst news is that it looks like Pollard might not play this week because of a foot injury. It's like,
I didn't hear that.
yeah, so he missed practice today. So he missed practice, and it's possible he may not be playing this week. So again, you've kind of messed yourself up even there because now you had two guys that are hurt. One probably sits and one's already hobbled. And I don't like them running into a loaded or stacked box against Washington with a guy that's not healthy. I just think, man, and I said this before, it wasn't the volume of Zeke, it was the type of volume. So and I mean, lo and behold, you have a guy who can run outside in space, call toss play to your left, he breaks the tackle, goes to the house. We all saw that as fans. Fans knew this. Like it was obvious. Okay, run him on the outside. They wouldn't do it. So I think for me, it wasn't so much about the usage, but the type of usage. I think they're really in a bad spot. And I do think there is some kind of financial politics. And if you want to play the political game with money, then sitting Zeke, like you said, for the Giants game, that preserves him. Get all of your contract versus getting a little bit of your contract. And to Zeke's credit, he's a warrior. He wants to play. He wants to earn the money, and I respect him for it. But it's hurting him and the team a little bit, I think, in my opinion, just looking at the way that's going.
Yeah, when they restructured his deal, he's here next year, and they can't cut him. They can't cut him because the money that they'd have to eat would be pretty severe.
They're married to him, it looks like. And And I had things for which I'll talk about the coaching staff in a second, but I think the coaches aren't helping. They're kind of making things worse with their play selection as well. But so I'm kind of gonna open this to you, Mike. Let you kind of give me your thoughts on this. How do you think? Let's say you're Kellen Moore for a second. How do you go after the Washington secondary, knowing you have in this game Cooper, Lamb, Gallup, and Schultz? How do you attack this team through the air?
Well, I'm expecting a big game out of CD. I think you're going to have a lot of mismatches. I mean, this is going to be. I don't count the Saints game as all of them being on the same field because we all know Coop was recovering from COVID. He wasn't, he wasn't at full strength. I mean, he had a nice catch, but he was in and out of it. They're at full strength. I mean, this team's a well rested. This is no excuse, when it comes to these receivers and the line. I mean, Zeke's probably the only one who gets it. I mean, this offense should be clicking. I mean, you've got a three-headed monster, and like you said, with Schultz, they should be wearing that secondary out. I mean, you've got great route runners. I don't think their secondary is that good. I think I think the key will be, again, the line of scrimmage. If our offensive line will give Dak time and let the receivers do what they got to do. I think it's a mismatch, and we should be able to score. I don't want to say it will. I'll give Washington their credit, but we should be able to control the game, and they're going to have to. If Zeke's hurt, right? I don't know Pollard. I don't know if he just missed, but if you got no running game, you better use your receivers as a running game. Quick passes, get things out. You saw what CD did on that quick pass, and he took it 30, 40 yards or whatever to the 1 yard line. I mean, you can do that. Gallup's still going to do his thing. They're going to have to attack that way if the running game's not working, because the running game hadn't worked in 6 weeks now.
And I love the way you phrased it. And the best word you said was no excuses. I'm right there with you. I think there's no more excuses anymore. Your guys have had time to rest. They're healthy. They're together. They're intact. I think Jerry came out on 105 through the fan and said, I guess he defended Dak, saying that these guys, the problem with the passing game might be just the continuity of guys running the wrong routes, depth, and things like that. I agree. But they're all back. They're back in practice. Like you said, I don't think this is a good secondary. I don't like William Jackson either. I don't think he's a good player, down in, down out. So I think, like you said, they have to go after him. No running game, pass the ball. And I know I complain about running the ball on first and second down. Now you don't have to. So go after him. Like, get out of the zone. And I think, like I said, Amari's back from COVID, so he should have full snaps. And I think Amari has to be on the field at all times. If he's healthy to play, I don't want him getting subbed out. I want him to play as much as he can. And you called it with Lamb. They got to work the middle of the field. You got to utilize Lamb, Schultz. And like I said, no slack. No slack. Choke them out early. Like you said, choke them out nice and early.
A fast start, right? I mean, how many times do we see this stumbling the first quarter, going through the motions, and then next thing you know, you're behind? They got to get out to a fast start like they did in Atlanta. I mean, even though they lost in Tampa, that was a fast, they got to get cranking. And that sets the tone. I mean, we want to be an elite team. This is a game you should win. I know it's on the road and it's a rival. You throw out the records, all that kind of stuff. But man for man, we're better. That's a fact.
Look at what they're missing. Like I've named off guys that won't play. I've named off Logan Thomas. Maybe not having your backup guy. You don't have Sweat or Chase Young. I don't really see an excuse, considering you have now back Joe Philbin, you have back Mike McCarthy. There's not much of an excuse there. I don't see what it is. I really can't give you guys an out.
All defense is going to be back, right? It'll be the first time all the defensive guys are back, from 2019 or whatever it is. I mean, there's no more excuses. The 3 games in 12 days. You want to give them a little bit of pass. That Saint game, all right, maybe they're worn down, but they're well rested and they got to be ready to go. They got to be focused and got to get it done. And I know they will. I'm really confident in the game. I think this is where we make our run. This is where we got to make it happen, and it starts in Washington. They want us. Here we are. They called you out. Show up, right? That's what it's about.
Let me ask you one question though, and see if there's any correlation. So you talked about the fast starts and starting quick. To me, it felt like they started fast enough in New Orleans with Amari Cooper in the game plan. And I think Amari was kind of like a decoy for the most part. I know he had a lot of snaps, but he was really a decoy. I think in this game, and maybe there's a correlation here, but when they stopped going to Amari Cooper, then they bogged down in New Orleans. I think you have to let Cooper get involved. I think Cooper, since he's gotten to Dallas, he destroys that secondary.
Yeah.
Always does. Always does. So I think he's got to be a staple in this game. And I talked about the coaches too. I said, okay, coaches don't have a pass this week. But I'm gonna ask this question though, when it comes to Dak Prescott, really in the passing game. Who do you find to be more responsible for these struggles on offense in the passing game? Is it Dak Prescott or is it the coaching staff, Kellen Moore, and Mike McCarthy?
Well, I mean, it's funny. I was just talking to my kids and nephew about it. My generation it's on me. If I'm the player, it's my job. The coaches, they coach, I play. And Dak has started slow. And if you look at some of his passes, they were off. I mean, that's a fact. And maybe the line didn't block as well. I mean, you look at the Raider, was it the Raider game? You had, I think it was Gallup, first play, overthrew him. Pretty sure that was the game.
Chiefs game.
You don't know. I mean, that changes when that's what I'm talking about. Those little plays change things. They change the momentum. They change how you feel. You get off to, and so we've kind of, had some missteps. Even in New Orleans, it was kind of like, we're going to get things going. We're going to get things going. And then Dak heats up. I think, for whatever reason, he's got to kind of get off to a better start. And that's where maybe the coaches can help him. Set up plays that are high percentage, high success, kind of get things moving, get things rolling, get him in a rhythm. Because once Dak's in a rhythm, I don't know of a better quarterback, that's better. When he's in a rhythm, he's as good as Brady, Rodgers. I'll put him up with any of those guys. Once he's, when he's in that rhythm, but it seems like when he gets in that, when he starts off a little slow, it kind of lingers. And then all of a sudden, they do that fast tempo, whether it be the end of the half or they're down a bunch of points, they got to change it. Now he's in his zone. We got to get that earlier. We got to get things going sooner. And so to circle back to your question, I'll always blame the play. If I'm a player, I'm taking ownership of it. You call the plays, you execute them, then things will take care of itself. So
I hate to ride the fence, and I hate to ride the fence, but I think it's both in a sense. And I want to be harder on Dak because Dak, like you said, he's the player. The ball's in his hands. We hate first down runs. Okay, check out of them. So I put a lot of the onus on Dak Prescott. But then I go back, I think about, like you said, the Chiefs game, the Raiders game, the Saints game. And it's the coaches that are kind of like, we know football, they script the first 15 plays anyway, as I assume, right? So if your plan is to run on first down, that's on you. The running game, that's on you guys. So even like all these little things that go around the offense and the quarterback, whether it's the game plan to start the game off, the offensive line politics, where you're taking out McGovern or you're trying to send a message to Lyle Collins and all this weird stuff, this all affects your quarterback. Yeah. All of it trickles back to your quarterback. And I wish, like I said, with Dak, I am tough on Dak as well, to the sense of you're the quarterback, take control, get these checks done, get him out of these plays, like we said Romo used to do, allegedly. I think the coaches are kind of doing a disservice to their team, and I think their bravado and their arrogance, it permeates back to the quarterback, who needs a little bit of a boost. And every quarterback does. It doesn't diminish Dak at all. I think every guy needs help, but I think these coaches are responsible. If it's a pie, maybe about 55 coaches, 45 Dak. I do put pressure on Dak himself, but I think it's a lot going on around your quarterback, and they're kind of at fault for this one.
Yeah. No, I see your points. Can't argue it.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's tough. But like I said,
it is. And who would say the team's 8-4 and we're all bitching about
them? It's how we got here, right? It's not what you got. It's how you got here.
It is. It's people forget the short memory, because I argue with people. They say, "Oh, Dallas hadn't beat anyone." I thought we went up to New England and beat them. Oh, their record, they weren't, they didn't have a winning record then. Well, we're the last team to beat them, so I know when Dallas is, same thing with the Chargers, we went in and on a road game and won. So, I mean, Dallas is capable of beating anyone, and we've got the talent. It's just, let's get it together. Let's make it happen and start on, against Washington and get on this roll, because they could, we can make this run. I mean, Washington, we should win. I don't want to go too far in the schedule, but they should be able to make this run and set themselves up for a nice playoff push.
But to your point, they're 8-4, and 8-4 is good. The problem I have is, maybe this is where I can kind of be cynical, is that you're 8-4, but the mistakes have been around all year. So, for example, penalties. They've given up at least maybe 90 penalties a year, maybe 100 penalties on the season, almost
Yeah.
1,000 yards and penalty yardage. That's been the thing all year. It's not going away. So we think about championship football and winning a playoff game and getting there, and they definitely can. That's not gone away. And
Yeah.
you take the penalties, you take Anthony Brown, and no slide to Anthony Brown, but he's Anthony Brown. So, and then the offensive line issues, the quarterback being off and misfiring, it's correctable and they can get around it, but it hasn't been fixed. And that's where you have a little bit of an anxiety about it. So,
Yeah.
so going right to big picture, then let's just say, because I think we both agree that they're going to win this game. We believe that they're going to win the game. If they win on Sunday, at that point, is the East now over in your mind?
Yes. Because you pretty much, the Giants are, they're pretty much done. You got them next week, and then you got Washington at home. So your next toughest game is going to be at home. And by then you got Phillies playing. Well, we're all playing each other. So you know how the East goes. There's, some of these I would consider them mid-tier teams. They're gonna, Philly might beat Washington. What, I think it's pretty much over if we win on Sunday. Beating them on the road, it's over. If we were to, God forbid, lose, then it's going to get interesting because now they're coming to our place. The pressure, is going to, all the pressure is going to be on us because we had this lead and we're kind of watch it disappear. But it was just a week ago. Everyone said Philly was going to take it from us, and then they went
All
out
of a
and won
sudden,
it. So
yeah.
The media. That's why I try to stay away from the media. I'm into you guys that do these podcasts, and that's really where I end up spending most of my time listening to all you guys. You do great content because I can't take the highs and the
Ebbs
lows,
and
and
flows.
the sky's falling in Dallas and we're a big mess and da da da. And Philly's going to take us. Now it's Washington's going to get us. Well, let's see what happens. I think we're going to beat them. I think we're going to beat them easily. If they prove me wrong, it's a beauty of when I do my promos. If we lose, you better believe that I get my message box is full. Them calling me every name in the book, and I got thick skin. If I dish it out, I got to take it. So I'm going to talk some noise, this week, and I have been to Washington, and I think the Cowboys will back it up for me.
So I feel good about this win, and I think it's handled. Here's my only concern about this. And look, every fan does this. When the schedule comes out, you look at the schedule, right? So we see 3 road games in the division in a row. We see Washington, Philly, New York. Now, our offense, if we classify our offense over the last couple of years, I would say they are a more finesse offense versus a physical running style offense. The problem I have now is that we have a outdoor team who's lost its traction, and we saw the game on Monday night. Like, that game was hard. That was a harsh weather game. If they're facing a game against these rivals on the road and they're stalled by anything of passing in some capacity, then you kind of lower your level right back to everybody else. So going to Philly, going to New York, and I know these teams aren't as good, they're not as talented, but again, you couple our mistakes, our stalling drives on offense, and all of a sudden you play back into their hands.
Yeah.
So, and I see if I looked at the conference standings correctly, if we were to win, we are now, I think, our 3rd win in the division. I think only our 1 loss in the conference, but Washington is not far behind either. So they go on a little mini run. All of a sudden, it gets a little bit tighter. So I think if they win, I'd say about 75%, it's over.
Yeah.
If they lose, then hey, the gate swings wide open either way. So it's a must win, but I think they do blow them out ultimately.
Yeah, I mean, it puts us at 9-4. So what is that? After that, there's 4 games left. We would be up 3 games with 4 left. We'd have to collapse, right? Is my math right, or is it 5 games left?
4. So that'd be 17 games. So we have 4 games left.
We'd have to. It'd be probably one of the biggest collapses in Cowboys history. So don't jinx it.
Knock on wood somewhere. But speaking of that schedule, those games. So the one game that we've talked about, I think, all season, probably since the midway point of the season, is the Arizona game. Do you think already where we stand right now, 8-4, have we already spoiled our chance at the bye? Is the bye now off the table right now?
I hopefully, if my boss, hopefully he's not listening. I spent yesterday on the playoff predictor, and I went through every week and every scenario. Everything I see is we're either going to get the 1 seed or the 4 seed. And we can get the 1 seed by winning out. And if we get a tie, if we can get a 3-way tie, with 4 losses with Green Bay and with the other team, we only have 1 conference loss. So that's where losing to the Raiders, losing to the Broncos, losing to the Chiefs, if you're going to lose, that's where you want to lose. Yeah. If you want to take a positive spin. But if we stumble 1 game, then I think we're going to be stuck in the 4 seed. So that's where I look. They have to win. We have to win out. If we win out, I think we're going to get the 1 seed, because I think looking at some of the matchups, I think the Bucs have the Bills coming up. I mean, they've got a couple tough games. That if they stumble once, if you get Green Bay to stumble once, and Arizona we'd have to beat them, and they'd have to stumble. But they play some of their division games, which those have been toss-ups for them. So it's possible. Is it probably likely? I mean, we haven't played well enough to where I think we can go on a 5-game run. I mean, but we're capable of it.
Why not?
Yeah.
Why not?
I mean, it's not like we're playing world beaters. Arizona is going to be that's going to be the game. I mean, really, that's the game that's the one. is going to make or break us. We should be able to win the next 3 games. 1 game at a time. I know, but if you're doing your paper checker, that's the way I predicted it on the playoff predictors. Is we win that. The Arizona games at home. I think Kyle Murray's a problem. But I think we didn't have Parsons, last time we played him. I think he might be able to help neutralize him. So
it's a good look. All right, Mike. So to wrap the show up, I have to ask you, you have to give me a player of the game on offense and on defense with stats for the Cowboys. Pick your player of the game on offense and defense.
Well, I think this is like I said with Emmitt Smith. I think this is a game that CD kind of maybe cements himself as a top receiver for the Cowboys. I know he's had a good year, but I think this is his breakout game, a signature game for him. So I'm expecting him to do big things, to get a couple touchdowns, 120 plus yards, and lead the receiving corps. That's what I have on offense. On defense, he was warming up, man, and I thought Tank was getting going, and I think he's itching. He's got a motor and he's got a passion. So I think he's due to have a breakout game coming back. He's warmed up. He's ready. He loves the rivalries. He gets pumped up for that kind of stuff. So I think he's got something to prove. There's a lot of people that kind of put him on that. Again, when Cowboys fans kind of get their guy to pick, to kind of zone in on, he seems to be another one, maybe because of the contract or whatever.
Always.
But
Always.
I think he's ready and poised. And I think with Gregory back, Parsons, that offensive line could have a hard time doubling up and it's pick your poison. I think Tank's had a big game.
Well, you definitely stole my thunder on that one. I had Tank also, and I had Tank because I think, like you said, you cannot identify what's happening. They might overthink themselves. I think they've had 3 centers this year. Washington, they've had 3 different centers. So communication as to who's coming, who's not coming, wherever Micah Parsons is at, I think that's the one right there. I think Tank gets a lot of one-on-ones, and I think he gets a sack. I think he might force an incompletion on 4th down. So like a key play in the game, maybe not a sack or a forced fumble, but a key stop. I think that's all him right there, man. So I love that call. Love that one for Tank Lawrence. Offense, I think it's got to be Dak Prescott. I think it has to be. I mean, I put the pressure on him. They know what the game means. Also, Dak knows what it means. You have to drown this team early in points, like really get on their backside quickly. So I think it's Dak. I say 300 yards, 2 scores. I think they go with it. So now we got to pick a score. So let's put the scores down. Mike, what's your score for this game?
I had it. It was 30-17. Is what I think it's going to end up being.
How's it go? Is it a blowout from Jump Street, or is it one of those they pull away late?
I think it's going to be. I think we'll always be in control, and I think eventually we'll wear it down and we'll pull away more in the end. But I think we'll always have a, two score lead on them for most of the, from the start.
So I'm feeling about 27-16. Even if the guys, let's say Zeke is out or Zeke will play, but even if Pollard's out, I feel the same way. I got 27-16. I think Dallas actually gets up early, and I think they slack. I think they get comfortable, they slack, let them back in the game, but they pull away late. So it's 27-16. They get the win, a key win in the division. So
Yeah, I want to
what
see them
happens, man.
fans walking out in the middle of the fourth quarter heading home. That'll make my day.
Trust me, those fans, they want to quit over anything. Those fans are dying to quit. And that's look like the Washington fans are emblematic of the team. When the team was struggling with their defense, getting wiped, like they play with no effort. The defense played with no effort. They gave up. The fans are the exact same way. If you choke them out early, they'll stop talking about wanting Dallas and they'll want the exit ramp as fast as possible. I can tell you that stadium traffic sucks. So make them leave, make them burn their gas waiting to get home. Make them angry in the car.
Yeah,
Make them mad in the car on the exit ramp. Piss them off, please.
that'll make my Sunday.
who you telling? But Mike, before I get you out of here, let us know how can we find you on Twitter and anywhere else.
Yeah, no, I mean, I appreciate it. Obviously, Twitter, mtag1993. Also, I do put my videos on YouTube. You can under Mike Tag. I started TikTok. Someone told me to put the videos on there, so I've been putting them on there. But man, there's some mean ass people on that TikTok, man.
Oh, man.
I just put it on and I never looked. But
try Reddit stuff. Reddit sucks too. Don't worry about it.
Oh yeah, but one of the best things I've done is Cameo. They reached out to me earlier in the year, and I've been doing Cameo videos for fans' birthdays, and I've had some really good experiences talking with some people, and it was funny. One of the fans, it was for for her husband's birthday, and they're expecting first child, and she had told me his dad, or his uncle, was a big super fan in the 90s, and his name was Captain Cowboy. And the funniest thing is, I know who Captain Cowboy was, and was that same guy. I have a picture of my man cave. The first Cowboy game I ever went to, I went and found him and got my picture with him before the game. So, I mean, things like that. It's really cool interacting with Cowboy fans, and this whole platform and doing these videos. I've been doing them for, since I was a kid. More wrestling but I mix in the Cowboys every.
We can tell. Believe me, we can tell.
Yeah, that's why I laugh at people. Some people don't get get what I'm doing. They think that I'm this guy that runs around all 24/7 screaming and yelling. And that's my biggest fear is when I go to Cowboy games, I'm expecting these people to think I'm going to run up and just start, going crazy in the stands. And I'm really not that way. Pretty chill. I watch the game. I focus. I do cheer. And I'll get up when I need to, but I'm not one of those fans. Nothing wrong with them. I mean, I enjoy them, but I'm just not that kind of person. But that, when I get that knee slap, people, that kind of turns, I always say it hulks me up. If you ever look at Hulk Hogan or any of that, kind of hulks me up to get me going. But it's fun. And again, it's been a great time, and I enjoy interacting with all the fans.
Most definitely, man. I appreciate you coming on, doing this for me. I mean, it's been great. Watching your videos too. It's like, I mean, you've been an ultimate warrior of sorts for wrestling fans. Just hopping on doing this with me. It's been a blast, man. And I mean, I can't thank you enough for doing it. I appreciate it. The Cowboys Nation definitely appreciates it. Guys, follow him on Twitter. He's a great follow. The videos are hype as hell. You're going to jump to a table or two. Definitely, it's a great time, Mike. I can't thank you enough for doing this, like I said. But guys, if you love this video, follow Mike on Twitter. Also, hit this sub button below for more videos just like this one. Guys, as always, for my guy, Mike Tag, I'm LP Cruz. Thank you for watching. And as always, Cowboys up. Peace.